one of the things I've always done, like when I even learned NLP, one of the first real dynamic set of tools I learned psychologically, I would go to these classes with these psychologists and psychiatrists, and we'd have an all-day session, which their idea of all day was 4 hours. It'd be like we'd start at 10, and at noon we're taking lunch. I'm like, where the hell are we going? We're going to lunch for an hour and a half, and then we come back at 1:30, and sure enough, by 3:30 or 4, it was the end of the program. And I was like, Jesus, you didn't even do a quarter of a day. So I took the rest of the time, and I extracted everything I could from what I'd learned. There are people with 10 times more skill than I had or ability, but my level of application compared to theirs, I dwarfed it. And it's because while I was still there, I didn't leave the environment. I've always had this belief. If you want to be successful at anything in life, never leave the sight of setting a goal without doing something that commits you to fulfillment. If you you're in state, right, when you do something. While you're in state, that's the time to commit yourself to something that makes you follow through. How many know what I'm talking about here? Say I. So I'd call somebody up, I'd schedule something, I'd lock in the next meeting, I'd sign up for the class, I'd enroll the guy who was going to mentor me, I'd set the meeting with a mastermind of people I met. I did something so that whatever I committed to, there was something when I went home that would pull me there. It's structure. In fact, I'll give you 5 C's to RPM just as a quick warm-up for you. How's that? If you don't remember, it'll be okay, but it'll be in your unconscious for when you go work with a coach. These are the 5 C's. Everything that comes in your mind, anything you can think of, because we're going to basically do a little mini RPM version of things right now. Anything comes to my mind. I'm here, and while you're here doing something, you're driving in your car, and you think of an idea for your business or one of your businesses. Where do you put it? iPhone. Where do you put it? Diary. Where do you put it? iPod. iPhone. iPhone. And how do you find it afterwards? How are you triggered to look at it again? So he goes back and reviews his app system. How do you do it? Right. Crisis. Crisis makes me go get it. How do you do it? I send an email to myself. Oh, good, more emails with more to-dos, right? So I don't care what your system is, but when you have RPM, you'll have one place you put it. For right now, you need one place to put it. Now, the problem is most of us have lives that if you put everything in one place, it just becomes even more overwhelming. Who knows what I'm talking about here? So the first step, I'll just tell you that, is C, is capture. You got to capture. And the motion I do is like this. Imagine doing this, like physically capturing it, pulling it out of my head, and putting it in one place. I don't care what your one place, it's got to be one place. Now, ideally, in that one place, you'd have some categories so you don't throw everything on one giant list. Does that make sense? So you might have a category for me. I have companies. So I have Robbins Research, I have Namali Resort, I have Metabolife, I have all these different companies. So I'll drop it in that area as an example. Or roles for me as a father. I don't have time to demonstrate this for you, but just know the first thing you want to do is keep it out of your head, have it in one place. Why do you want to do that? Keep lots of extra mental RAM available. When you have to keep thinking about stuff, it creates inner stress. If you know it's there, and you know you're going to look at it consistently, like you do it once a week, once a day, and you're going to review it and do something with it. Something with it might be, forget it, I'll do it later, tomorrow, but you're going to do something with it, you'll be able to let go. How many think that's pretty much something you try to do already? Most people try to do this, don't you? But the reason most people don't do it is because making lists, after a while, they stop doing. Tell me why they stop doing it. Who's made lists and they're not kept the lists up, your, quote, to-do list? Why don't you keep those to-do lists up? Because every time you go there, they're so damn what? How many have always got more to do, if you do make the list, than you have time? So it inherently says, why am I doing this? RPM is a different mindset. Our mindset is, we're just first capturing it. We know we're not going to do most of this. But we need to be able to later, when it's time, decide which things are worth doing, and more importantly, what are we really after? We're going to use these to trigger us to say, all this relates to maybe something more important. How many follow the philosophical difference here? Say I. My goal is not get things done. This is not GTD. This is use the things you need to get due to stimulate a higher level of thinking of what you really want, why you want it, and become very strategic about how to get that. And many of these things may go away, or they just won't matter. But you do have to capture it because otherwise it's in your head. So I have a lot of systems of doing it, but if you never saw me again, the most basic thing you need is one place to capture. Does that make sense? And what's step one of RPM? It's a C. You got to what? Capture, which means get it out of your head, put it one place. Second thing, you got to make sense of all this crap. And the way you do that, step two, is you create a plan. And a plan for me has 3 parts. And the 3 parts are 3 questions that I ask and 3 actions I take. And again, you'll learn this. I'm not trying to teach this all right now. I just want to plant some seeds in your mind. Is this okay? Is this useful? So when you're going home, you got all this captured stuff you just did here, right? Now you got to start to create a plan. You got to look at all this stuff and say, okay, there's more here than I can do. So what I really do is read all this stuff and start to see, well, all these things relate to one thing. All these relate to another. If I'm a mom and I made my list, and on the list I have things like I got to pick up the laundry, I got to drive the kids to school, I've got to do this thing for the PTA, I got to clean the house, I got to run my business that I run out of the house, I got to do the accounting, I want to have to spend some time with my husband at the end of the day. Soccer mom, totally stressed out. But if I write all those things down and get them out of my head, and when I write them all down, I then start to put them together and go, you know, this, and this all relates to my kids. This all relates to the house being great. This, and this all relates to my business. And this is about my personal life being rich and happy. I'm able to do something really nice. I'm able to go from this, which is what your capture list looks like. You'll start writing it down. You go, I got to do this, and that, and this, and this. And you start to feel good. It's out of my head. But then you go, I got to do this, and I got to do this, and I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this, and 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 I got to do this. I got to do that too, and that too. So step 2 is I look at my capture list and I create a plan. And the way I create a plan is I start to figure out, what do I really want? That's what the world is saying to me. That's what's in my head. What do I want? I might start to group some things together. I might start to say, you know, let's take a look at this. You know something? Watch this. Watch this for a second. This item here, clean the house, and this thing, and this thing, and this thing, these all relate to the house. And my outcome there is I want a magically clean house because, why? It makes me feel fully alive. And then, oh, by the way, this, and this all relates to my children. Oh, and this, and this relates to my business. And oh, yeah, this is me personally. Anybody see what happens? Suddenly, 80 action items or 12 or 30 will turn into 4 outcomes. There's something here that I want for my home. There's something I want here for my kids. There's something I want here for my business. There's something I want for me. And what that does is now I can start to go, okay, instead of reading all these items, what do I really want for my kids? What's my outcome this week or today? And you get really, really clear about what you're after. You use this to take you to another level higher. Use this to trigger a higher vision instead of letting this limit you. And once you know what you want, that's the first question. So create a plan has 3 questions to it and 3 actions. First question is, what do I really want? How many of you would feel different in your life just by this language change? What do I have to do versus what do I really want to accomplish? Would that change the way you feel about your life? Yes or no? Yes. How does it feel with have to do? See, RPM, when you finally learn it, has many pieces to it. Above all else, it's a thinking process. And better thinking creates better results. It's that simple. So you don't have to ever use a piece of paper to think this way. From now on, all this stuff's happening, you go, what's my outcome? What am I really after? What do I want? What's the specific results? Like, what's the target? Let's chunk up. I don't ever go in a meeting with anyone. What do you think the first words out of my mouth are when I sit down in a meeting after the hellos and the proper connections? What do you say? I always say, what are the outcomes for this meeting? Because how long the meeting is based on getting the results that we're there for. It makes a much more fulfilling life. Or if you can't get in that time, you know that outcome's still not done. We're going to come back and get that outcome done. How many follow what I'm talking about here? Say I. Now, when you get clear what your outcomes are, that's the first question of creating a plan. Second question is, why do I want it? Why? Why is this important to me? Why is this something that really is a must for me? I don't have to do it. I want to do this. Why is this transformative? What's exciting about this to me? And almost all of you have certain key words that are triggers for you. And language shapes your emotion. You want to have a nutritious meal or a delicious meal. You might say, I need a nutritious meal. But what if I said, this is a delicious, nutritious meal? You're more in. If I said to you, I want to introduce you to this person, they're really nice, versus they're delicious. Right, who knows what I'm talking about here? So when you learn RPM, you're going to learn that RPM is a system of thinking, that RPM is the power of language, because you can change a few words in your outcome. It'll totally change where you end up and what you're going after in your life. RPM is a visual chunking system, a way to take all that stuff you saw and group 82 things down to 4. And guess what will happen to your stress level? Through the floor. Guess what happens to your concentration ability? Through the roof. What are you going to focus on? That's another one. RPM is a focusing tool. It makes you focus on what's most important, because most people major in minor things. Am I making sense? So you got to know, why are we doing this? And I always look at 2 levels of why. Why for me? Why for the team? What's the big why? If I'm involving other people, if it's just me, then it's me. But I usually have the big why. So I said 3. Step 1 is capture. Step 2 is create the plan. There were 3 questions. What are they? Number 1 is, what do I really? Or another word for that is, what is my? Or another word for that is, what is the result? And I eventually try to get it to a result because I want to make it measurable, if at all possible. If I can't get it measurable in a short time, I want major progress on as my outcome, right? Or complete something, or whatever it is. My purpose are some key words. Write this down. Purpose, I should say, activity without purpose is the drain to your life. Activity without purpose is the drain to your life. It's the drain to your wealth. It's the drain to your lifestyle. 3 questions. What's my outcome? What's my purpose? What's my why? Third one, what's my massive action plan? Or another, say, what do I need to what? Now you ask that question, it makes some sense. Because what to do depends on what your outcome is. Otherwise, what you're going to do is going to be based on stress, concern, fear, people interrupting you, reacting, demands. And so your life is nothing but a reaction tool. Of all the tools I have, this may be the most valuable one, ironically. Because this is the one how it all gets executed. And I don't teach it very often. So, third question is, what's my massive action plan? What do I need to do to achieve this? And when you do that, you'll take things off your capture list and you'll cross them off as they fit in, or you'll say, I don't even need to do that. So, to create a plan, there's 3 questions and then there's 3 actions. This gets a little more technical, but I think you can pick it up real easy. You take those action items and you put them in order of importance. Does that make sense? But the way I do that more quickly is I go put a star next to the ones that are the 20% that's going to give me 80% of the result. Because I know I'm not going to do all these action items. I know even if I intend to, I'm going to get interrupted 20 million times. So I want to know, what's the 20% of this list? I've got an outcome. I got a purpose. And on this little block, the center of the target is the outcome. I see the purpose with all the juicy words. Why I'm doing this? Now I got this list of 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 things, action items. They're all related to kids, that kid outcome. I'm not going to do all those today. Which are the 20% that make the biggest difference? I star those. And guess what else I do? I figure out what's the 20%, what I call it, what are the must items? My musts are the 20% that are going to make 80% of the difference. That way, every day I can still succeed. That's why I still do my lists and most people don't. Because I don't do lists. I come up with outcomes and purposes, and I got lists within them, and they're highly prioritized with what matters. And later on, if I want to come back and do more, great. So, 3 questions, 3 actions. The actions are, star the things that are musts. 2, establish the real time. The real time is I go minimum to maximum. On each of those items, I go, how long is this really going to take? Why is that important? Because most of you overwhelm yourself and say, this will be, I just had a meeting with my team the other day, and I said, how long is this going to take? And somebody said, that'll probably take us 10 weeks. I said, okay, let's sit down and do it. Let's sit down and lay out where that 10 weeks is going to come from. And we're all done. It was about 7 hours worth of work. Because we all overestimate when it's in our what? In our head. You sit down, look at each item, and you look at the 20%, and you mark, okay, 20 to 25 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes. And by the way, at the end of the day, what do I look at? What are my start items? What's the minimum time necessary to get that result? That's what I go do. Same thing with my week. So, 3 questions. I create a visual block where this separates from everything else. Below it, I'll spell space and I'll create another block. When you learn RPM, you'll see that visually. I don't think I want to throw up for you right now. But basically, in the center of my page, I see the target of what I'm after. I write my result. To the right, I write my juice. Purpose, to the left, I put my action list. Put in order of importance, boom. Asterisk, boom. Minimum must time, I'm ready to rock and roll. Here's the third one. Leverage. Leverage is critical. You know how I get so much done? Because I don't just get it done. I know the outcome, I know the purpose, and I look for leverage. Leverage is different than delegation. What's the problem with delegation? Delegation is you have all that needs to be done, so you give it to someone else, and you tell them what needs to be done, and when they don't do it, you're pissed off. Leverage says, I can move the biggest boulder in the world with a little bit of effort if I get something I can do it with, but I'm still part of it. So leverage is, if I'm going to leverage something here with Tom, I'm going to make sure Tom understands the what? The outcome. I want to make sure Tom understands the purpose, the why, and the action. But I might say to Tom, if you can get this done without this action or better action, go for it, baby. And I want to talk to you on this date, and we got to promise and we're going to check in before it's needed. So there's no surprises. And if you're having problems, Tom, come back to me because we're partners on this. That I call leverage, different than delegation. Who sees the difference here? Say I. So 3 questions. What creates the plan? 3 questions with a block, 3 actions. Where's my must? What's my minimum must times? Where's my leverage? And you know what I do when I have no time? There is time. I just got to leverage it. Now saying, you say, I have no one to leverage it to. You know, Shane over here, right? I got all the stuff he wants to do. He can't leverage it. But Shane's answer was hire somebody. Then he thinks about what it's going to take and goes $125,000. Can't do that now. He's getting caught up in one way to get the outcome. Leverage. He goes through his list and goes, what if I got someone to do 20% of this stuff? I could spend 20 grand to get that much freedom. I could pay for it times 10. And if I'm really productive, my productivity should enhance the world, not only my clients and customers, but it should provide jobs for other people. And if there's anything you hate to do, it's because you're either ineffective at it or you don't think it's very important, but it is urgent. So you need to hire somebody for those things. And ideally, somebody who loves that job. You're never going to grow when your time is eaten up for activities that aren't that important. Activity without high levels of purpose is the drain of your fortune. Do it now. If you can't get it all now, do a part of it now. Leverage is power. Leverage is ultimate power. So, we said there's 5 steps. It's going to go much quicker now. This is the hardest part, is number 2. So what's the first step to doing RPM? Number 1 is you got to do what? Nice and loud, what? Step number 2 is after you capture all in one location, maybe you learn to chunk it a little bit while it's still there, see what relates. But then what's step number 2? Create a what? An RPM plan. Not just a plan, an RPM plan. R stands for result, P stands for purpose, M stands for massive action plan. RPM is like a car. You increase the RPMs, increases its power, you get from here to there much faster. RPM. Results. What does it stand for? Results focused, purpose driven, massive action plan. That's an RPM. Results focused, purpose driven, massive action plan. That's what you want. So, what are the 3 questions and the 3 actions in order if you have a plan? Tell me. First question is, what do I? Yes, what do I want? What's my outcome? What's the specific what? Result. And that's often a good way to ask that same question. Start general, what I want, turn it into an outcome, get it down to a specific result. Second question, what's my big why? What's my purpose? What's my reasons? What's my why? What's my purpose? Why do I want to do this? That's the real question. Why do I want to do this? Very different to want to than to have to, isn't it? Now, what's my massive action plan? What do I need to do? How many got this in your body by repetition now? Say I. What are the 3 actions? Number 1, we want to figure out which ones are our what? Must. 20% that makes 80% of the difference, asterisk those. Those are your priorities. You're not going to do them all. Just decide you're not going to do them all. Let go. Be free. 2, figure out minimum, maximum time for them. Estimate, just off the top of your head. 3 minutes to 10 minutes. 45 minutes to 90 minutes. Give yourself the range. On the computer, by the way, it adds it all up, and you can look at a block, and it already tells you for the whole day how much time. Minimum, must time, maximum amount of time. By each RPM block, it'll do it for you. But you can do it by hand. It's well worth a few seconds to do. Third thing we want to do, see, is there any of this that we could what? How could this soccer mom leverage? Her activities are things like drive the kids to school, pick them up from the school, drive them to violin practice, drive Johnny to soccer practice. A driver. Said in perfect Russian. Could you do a carpool? Could you trade days? Yes. So that when you're doing it, could you do the morning and someone else did the afternoon? If you were really looking at this, there's ways to do it. And by the way, could you get your outcome with your kids in the morning session so the afternoon you really felt like you connected? You made more of a difference in that morning than if you've been driving them all day long, stressed out. How many follow that? Say I. I take people like this, and I can show them the real times that it takes to get their job done, and they tell me I have no time. You know they have no time? Because guess what they say to themselves all day long? I have no time. And they're so stressed, they eat up all their time telling themselves how they have no time. They think about it, they have no time. They eat up all their time. They don't think efficiently, and they don't leverage anything. If you do these first two steps, would you be light years ahead of anybody else around you to think yes or no? Third step, commit and schedule. 3 C's so far. Capture, create the plan, commit, and schedule. Let me tell you what I mean by commit. Commit is, now that I've got these, let's say, 6 outcomes for the day. Does that make sense? 6 outcome blocks. Each one of them has an outcome, a purpose, might have 4, 5, 6 action items in it. I know the most important ones. I might look at those and go, some of the stuff is scheduled. Like I have to do this at 3 o'clock today. So you lock that in your schedule. You put in what we call the big rocks first. Some of you know this metaphor. If I take a glass over here, and I take this glass and I start to, see if I got a glass over here, show you what I mean. Yeah. So assume I take this glass over here, and it's already this full, and then I start adding items to it. How long before this thing's going to overflow? But if this was empty, and I first take the big items, the rocks of my life, the things that I have to do that I've scheduled, they go in first, a couple rocks. And then secondarily, I commit to some block time for some things that matter to me. Like I'm going to block some time here with my team between 2 and 3:30 every single Thursday where we're going to go through one of these 7 items. How many know what I'm talking about here? Okay? I'm going to block that time. Okay? I'm going to commit that time. All right? So commit is committing to the most important things and then scheduling those other items that are going to be important to you. So it goes from just a list to when am I going to what? When am I going to work on it? When am I going to do it? Block times can move. Scheduled times can't unless you renegotiate. What's the difference between a block time and a scheduled time? Scheduled is you made a commitment to another person. So it can't be moved without negotiation. Got to call them, got to work it out. Block time, you could move if you need to. So it has more flexibility. Make sense? And you do this, and the way to do it, we do it on the computer. It's actually fun, but I've done it on paper for years. Okay, so we got capture, pretty easy. Just get out of your head, one location. We got create the plan, 3 questions, 3 action items you're going to do there. Then you got an RPM plan. Number 3, we commit and what? Schedule. Number 4, what do you want to do? Complete and achieve. Complete the most important items, achieve what you're after. It's that simple. And then finally, the most important one of all, to me, celebrate. They're all C's. Celebrate. Why is it important to celebrate your victories? Celebrate the magic moments of your week or the magic moments of your day. Why is it important to do that, you think? Because it's what gives you the energy to go for more. Does that make sense? Otherwise, it's like, remember I told you the cheese and cracker story? You know, you're holding out to, someday I'm going to celebrate. Someday never comes. Someday leads to a town called nowhere. Right? You don't want to be in that place. So you want to celebrate. And you want to celebrate the little victories. You want to celebrate the magic moments. How many breakthroughs have you had this week? Forget the things you've learned. How many of you have had breakthroughs, like insights, distinctions about you or your business that you couldn't put a dollar value on it? You know for you the value is infinite. How many got experiences like that? Okay? So if you don't capture that, you don't give yourself credit. When you don't give yourself credit, your brain doesn't notice it. Remember sitting on the first day? Here's how things get created. You know, you get obsessively focused on something. Doesn't the system help you to focus on what you want? You generate enough energy and emotion, you're totally committed, you'll do anything to achieve it. And then step 2 is execution. And step 3 is grace. But grace gets magnified the more you appreciate it. The more you notice that you're guided or that things have happened for you. Those you've been on a date with destiny, you know I have a core belief, and that is life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. It's your job to figure out how it's happening for you. If you don't notice it, you won't experience it, right? That's what we're talking about. So from now on, if you never saw you again and you didn't go to your coach, at least you know the thinking process. I go to a meeting. Before I go to the meeting, guess what I do? I write down a bunch of outcomes. What are my outcomes of the meeting? What do you think I do first? I have a little capture sheet for the meeting. All week long, something comes up, I write on that sheet. I don't write 20 emails to people in the middle of nowhere. Say, by the way, let's talk about this. I just capture it. When I get there, I look at my list. What are the most important outcomes? If I have some action items, what outcome do they fit under? I go in the meeting, what do I ask other people? Tell us, what are the most important what for this meeting? The most important? Everything is outcome. When you're outcome driven, you produce results like nobody else. And I'm associated with the why. Why am I doing this? Why am I in partnership with these people? Right? What's this all about? Because that'll put you in state. So, 5 parts of RPM. Let's see what they are. Number 1, what? Nice and loud. Nice and loud. Number 2, create a, yes, what kind of plan? RPM plan. What's the R stand for? Results focused. P is for purpose driven. M is for massive action plan. Massive action plan is a map. M-A-P, massive action plan, a map. Okay, what are the 3 questions that will make you know you have that plan? Question number 1 is, what's the next example after that? What is my outcome? What's my actual result? Second question, what's my purpose? Why do I want to do this? Right? Why do I want to do this? What's my big whys? And then third question, what's my massive action plan? Or another word for it is, what do I need to what? Now asking what to do makes sense. Makes total sense. What are the 3 things you do in that plan in addition to those 3 questions? Figure out what the musts are. Figure out the minimum must what? And number 3, find yourself some. Great. What's step number 3? For this to be alive and not just be on a piece of paper, I got to take this from an idea and I got to commit. And when am I going to do this? What day? What week? What month? What hour? Right? I tend to plan weekly first, and I put it in days, and when I get the night before, I plan the day, because a lot moves around until that time. Right? Then after I do that, what do I need to do? What's step 4? Complete what? Complete what? All the actions? The outcomes. Complete by achieving what matters most. Cut to the chase. Get to the must. Is it possible by having that outcome so clear, you might come up with something that's not on the page that's better and get you there quicker? Yes or no? And by the way, on the computer, you can leverage a whole block. You can push a button, send it to somebody an email, push a button, and give an audio message of what you want, and they can accept it and comes back and say they accept it. So I'm excited about what it's going to be like. Or use your iPhone, or use whatever you want. It's a thinking process. Then on the other hand, think about this. So leverage, if you leverage it, you're staying connected, you know what's going on, but also they know the outcome, they know the why. It might be useful to talk in terms of their why too. So now they're activated. Why do people do certain things and not others? Because certain things they have enough reasons to in their reasons. Other things they don't. They value something more. When people say, I didn't have time for this, what they're really saying is something else was more important to me. But usually it isn't really something that was more important. It was something else that's more urgent, and they don't know what's important to them. So maybe you can help them. Third piece is complete and achieve. Fourth, complete and achieve. What's the final step? 5. Celebrate. And the way I celebrate personally is I'm constantly making lists of magic moments and accomplishments. Welcome back to Your Breakthrough. We're going to talk in this session about the exact formula for what creates long-term happiness, what creates unhappiness, what creates suffering, and what the antidotes are, of which there's only 3. How do I know this? I've had the privilege of being with 4 million people now from 100 countries around the world in live seminars, and I've seen everything you can imagine. I mean, from the most successful people in the world to the singularly most challenged people you could possibly imagine. I've dealt with people with multiple personality disorders, 52 different personalities, and how to put them back together. And I've dealt with people with no personality who have a much bigger problem. No matter what the diversity of people I've dealt with and the diversity you've seen in this show, the ultimate question I'm always asking is, how do I help people to break through? The question is, what are you breaking through to? In essence, all of us at some level to feel alive have to always feel like we're growing. When people ask me, what does it take to be happy? I always tell them one word: progress. Progress equals happiness. Even if you're not where you want to be yet, if you're on the road, if you're improving, if you're making progress, you're going to love it. You're going to feel alive. On the other hand, it doesn't matter how successful you are. If you stop growing, you start dying inside. Now, how does this relate to this session on breakthrough? Well, I'll say it's really simple. If you and I want to know what it takes to be happy, we have to understand what is our current blueprint of how our life's supposed to be. Now, what do I mean by blueprint? Well, we have a story in our head of how life's supposed to be. Some people's story is you work hard in school, you become really great, you're a nice person, you're a good person, and then you grow up and you take care of yourself and you find the ideal man and you fall in love and you have a white picket fence and you have 3 perfect children and you live happily ever after. Somebody else's story, the old story was, you work really hard in school, you excel in college, you go to work for a big corporation, and you move up through the ranks until you're the president or chairman of the company, and you become successful and respected throughout life. These are some old stories. Obviously, the stories that we hear today of what people's lives are supposed to be like are completely diverse. We no longer have these little archetypes, but one archetype still seems to remain. And that archetype is, in order for you to really feel like you're enough, many people believe they have to achieve an enormous amount. They may do it in different ways today. They may do it by building a company and taking it public when they're 27 or 25 years old, or they find and create a new technology, or they become a very special doctor. But we live in a culture in the West that teaches people that you're not enough unless you do something really special and unique, and we define special and unique in interesting ways. A school teacher is not special and unique. A mother who stays home with her children day and night, sculpting their minds, their bodies, their souls, and their future is not special. We live in a world today where we treat teachers like they're nobody and pay them accordingly, and we wonder why our children seem to have challenges in learning and growing or being engaged in school. When we spend thousands of dollars on some item like a computer, but what we look at overall, we invest in for the teacher and for that person who's the personal connection with them is so small. We live in a society where many women look down and say, well, you're just a housewife, you're just a mother. See, some of the pain we have in our society is not because there's one right or one wrong approach, but because we try to make everybody fit into some particular approach to life. Here's what's going to make you happy or make you unhappy in life. It's real simple. Let's do a quick test. If you're in a situation right now where you look at your life, I know there's an area of your life that you probably feel pretty darn good about. Even if you're not happy with your finances, I bet you feel damn good close to your kids. Or if you're not close to your kids, maybe you don't have any kids, maybe you feel really good about your career. If you're doing not so good in your career, maybe you got a really great body that you've trimmed down or strengthened up, or you really shaped yourself the way you want, muscularly, or in the way you look. Or if that's not happening, maybe you feel a really special connection with God, or really close to your mother or father or your family, whatever. Almost everybody has an area of their life they feel really good about if they're honest and if they're fair to themselves. What's an area of your life you really feel happy about? I want you to think about it for a moment, truthfully. What's an area in your life today that if you wanted to be happy about it, you really could feel proud about it? You could feel like it's an area you're doing darn well in. And if you're really hard on yourself, there's still an area. What's an area? I want you to think of it right now. And I want you to think of that area, whether it's your body or your finances or your career or your intimate relationship or your relationship with your kids or your relationship with your creator, whatever it is. I want you to think about, why are you happy with that area of your life right now today? Why are you happy with that area of your life right now today? Really think about it. If you were in a seminar with me, I'd have you write this down. And if you can put me on hold here for a second, because I'd like to reveal to you what the formula is for happiness. And if I say there's a formula for happiness and here's what it is, you're going to go, yeah, sure, that's what he says. But if you put down the answer, and we can see the formula is real without me telling you what it is. You get to look at your own life and say it matches. You're going to know this is right. So you could stop this right now if you want, put me on hold, and just write down what's an area of your life you're really, really happy about, you're really pleased with, or you could be if you wanted to focus on it. And why are you happy with that part of your life right now? Even if you're not happy with everything, what's the area you're happy with and why? Put me on hold right now, or if you're not going to do that, just think for a moment. Why? Specifically, be real. Why? Now, when I ask this, if you turn me back on now, if I ask this of an audience, I'll have people write this down for a few minutes, and I'll call on people, and I'll say, share with the person next to you first. What are you happy about, and why are you happy in that area? And be specific. And after they share, I'll have people stand up. I'll call on a variety of people, and I say, ma'am, tell me, what are you happy about? And she'll say, well, honestly, I'm really happy with my body. She goes, I never thought I'd say that, but I used to be so unhappy with it, and you know, I did some things, I pushed myself through, and now I exercise regularly, and I'm not perfect, but I feel fit, I feel strong, I feel energetic, and that's really, I don't know, it just feels good to me. Now, I say to everybody, I'm now going to show you what the formula for happiness is, and it's real simple. I want to reveal it to you so you don't ever forget it. Whenever you're happy with an area of your life, it's because right now, your current life experience, I call it your LC, your life conditions, the conditions of your life conditions in that area match or equal to your blueprint, your story, your belief about how life should be in that area. So this woman says to me, I'm really happy with my body because it's not perfect. Her blueprint is I don't need to be perfect, but it's so much better than it was. I'm fit and I'm strong and I have this energy. Her mental blueprint says I should be fit, strong, and have energy. I don't need to be perfect, but I should be that way. Well, when my life, my body matches how I think it should be, I feel good about my life. I'll ask somebody else. I'll say, tell me an area you're happy with. Someone else will say, well, I'm really happy with my career. And why? Well, I'm doing better than I even thought I would be. I'm ahead of the schedule of where I hoped I'd be at this stage. I'm working at this level in this company, and I have these skills and this ability, and it's even better than I thought. Well, once again, listen, this person's happy with this area of their life because their current life conditions in the area called their career are even better than they expected they would be, better than their blueprint, better than their belief of how it should be. If it's really better, you tend to be over the moon. One woman would say, I gotta tell you, I said, I'm the happiest I've ever been in my whole life. How come? She goes, because I have this man in my life and I'm in love with him and he loves me and I can be myself with him. And we have this incredible intimacy and this passion and we want to be with each other all the time and I never get bored with him. Well, what's her blueprint? You want to be with somebody that you can have total intimacy with, somebody who you love and loves you. Those are part of her rules, her beliefs of how it should be. She said, it needs to be, I never want to be with anybody else. I want to be with them every moment. Her blueprint about how life should be and the way she lives, her relationship's even better than she hoped. When it's better than you hope, you're going to be totally excited. So think about this then. What's an area you're not happy with? Let's see if we can find the formula for unhappiness. If the formula for happiness is to be able to meet your expectations or exceed them, that really makes you excited, but to be happy, you got to at least meet it. It doesn't have to be perfect. But if you generally are meeting what you expect you want from your life in that area, you feel good. Life conditions match blueprint, feel good. So what makes you feel bad? What creates pain, stress, frustration? Real easy way to figure it out. Answer this question. What's an area of your life you're not happy with? Be honest with yourself. And even if your life is great in all kinds of ways, I'm sure there's an area you'd like to improve. Anybody who's honest, if they're doing great in their career, very often they don't take care of their body so much. If they're really focused on their body, very often they find themselves in a position where they're not spending enough time with their kids. Or if they're spending time with their kids, their intimate relationship's not doing so well. Because it's the nature of human beings to focus on areas they feel comfortable with and strong in and give those time. And the areas they don't feel so strong and they go, I don't have time for it. What they're really saying is, I don't feel very competent in that area. So what's an area of your life that you are not as happy with? It's healthy, honestly, to look at areas and say, I don't like it, I want more. This whole concept of a breakthrough is about how do I close the gap between where I am right now and where I want to be. That's what we're here to do. It's like, here's where I want to be, here's where I am. It's healthy to see there's a gap. That makes me have this hunger, this drive to grow, to feel alive, to expand as a human being. So what's an area you're not pleased with? Is it your body? Is it your finances? Is it your career? Is it your spiritual life or lack thereof in terms of feeling connected in that area? Is it your kids? Right? What's the area? What's the area that's not where you want it to be? And then answer for a moment, why aren't you happy with that area of your life right now? Why specifically today are you not happy with that area of your life at this stage of your time of your life? Again, you can stop this and write it down. Might be useful for you. Or if you're going to keep it running, you can stop it and you'll turn it right back on and I'll kick into it. Do that now. Or if you kept it running, then just I'll give you what happens. I have people write this down and they don't like this exercise so much. Well, I don't like my body, or I don't like my finances, I don't like my career, I don't like the person I'm in a relationship with, I don't like myself the way I'm in relationships. Why? And they write it all down. Have people share back and forth. I call on people and the lesson's pretty clear. I tell people in advance, here's the formula for unhappiness. I'll show you before you do anything else. When your life conditions, the way you're living your life today, does not match, it doesn't equal your blueprint, your story of how it's supposed to be, then you're going to have disappointment, frustration, or pain. If your life is way different than the way you think it's supposed to be, you can have enormous pain. If it's a little different, you might feel stressed. Make sense? So people stand up and they say, tell me, what's the area you're not happy with? And the person says, well, I'm really not happy with my finances. And I go, why? And they say, because I'm doing worse now than I was 5 years ago. I made mistakes in the market, and at this stage of my life, I should have this much money, and I don't have it, and I don't know how to change it, and it's making me crazy. And why are they crazy? You say, well, because they don't have their economic needs met. No, you can not have your economic needs met, and you can still be okay. But when you have an idea, this is what my need is, and I did the wrong thing, my life doesn't match how I'm supposed to be, that's when people get a little crazy. See, think about it. If you grew up taking care of folding your own clothes, making your own meals, going to the store, doing the grocery shopping, cleaning the bedroom, cleaning the house, vacuuming, taking out the trash, and you did that your whole life, then if you have to do that later on, you don't feel like you have economic pain because you don't have a maid. But if you grew up in an environment where everything was done for you, you never have to work, and now suddenly you have to work incredibly hard to just pay enough money to pay your bills, and all of a sudden food is building up, and the house is dirty, and your clothes aren't folded, and nothing matches, you might find yourself really angry and frustrated because you have a different story about how life's supposed to be than how it is. Someone else will say, well, I'll tell you why, because I'm in a situation now where, I'm 30 pounds heavier than I should be. Should be is the key word. There are people in all cultures who love being big. There are people that will walk around and someone else might think they're massively overweight, but they're going, I own this, honey, and they really, truly, they match their blueprint. Big is beautiful, because their idea is big is beautiful. I'm big, that's beautiful, matches my blueprint. Rock and roll, I'm happy as can be. Somebody else can look like a twig and be stressed out saying, I hate my body. Because their blueprint says I should be the skinniest thing on earth, and I'm not skinny enough. Am I making sense? When your life conditions don't match your blueprint, you're going to have pain. But here's when you suffer. When I ask people, who here has been through the dark night of the soul? Who's been here in a situation where you feel like life isn't worth living, or we feel like a pain that just will never go away? And a lot of people write down those experiences, like Joaquin. So you'll begin to understand what the issue is I'm talking about here. Joaquin, if you recall, was in a situation where this man felt like there was no reason to live. He couldn't work, he couldn't do anything, his life was worthless. Why did he think that? Because he had a blueprint. And his blueprint said, I need to be an NBA basketball player, at least a professional basketball player. I need to be able to make money and have this great lifestyle because that's what makes me worthwhile as a human being. That's what makes my family respect me, my mother, my uncles, my aunts. I'm the successful one in the family and I make the money. I support everybody. He's a good man. He didn't come just to be successful. He took care of his mother, his family. He tried to be an inspiration for people. Joaquin Hawkins is a man who was always going out on his free time and training kids and showing them the pathway to freedom, how they could play basketball and get free like he did and get out of the inner city. So this man was not a selfish man, but he knew this is the way to be worthwhile. This is the way to be able to give to people. This is the way to take care of your family. And all of a sudden, one night, what happened? That way was taken from him. He has a stroke, And in the middle of the night, his life conditions make it impossible to be who he has to be, or he feels like he's worthless. You get it? We have an identity. We have a story of how we're supposed to be. And if life somehow gets in the way of that story, we feel pain. But if we feel we have no control, that's when we go into suffering. See, it's one thing to say my life doesn't match my blueprint, I got to lose weight. That might stress you out. Or my life doesn't match my blueprint, I'm not in a relationship, I got to get in one. That might motivate you even. You might not like it, but you're going to find a way to get in one. Or my career doesn't match how I should be, you could change it. But when you start believing that your life doesn't match your blueprint and you have no control to change it, you're helpless, that's when people suffer. And so this week for your breakthrough, it's a chance for you to start to take a look at your blueprint anywhere you're really having pain. Hey, look, if you're doing great in some area of your life, celebrate it, of course, and I'm sure there are many areas you are. But life is really a series of growth spurts. I mean, two things in life make you feel alive: growing and giving. And what's really wonderful about this man, Joaquin, is he was constantly growing, trying to get better, trying to be a better teammate, a better basketball player. Think about it. When he didn't make the teams and he didn't make the NBA, he didn't give up. He worked even harder. The guy was always striving to become something. And he became it, and he achieved it, and then life took it from him. Isn't that the common denominator with so many of the people in the stories of this 6-part series that you saw, these 6 specials? I mean, Frank and Kristen had a blueprint of what life was supposed to be about. We're supposed to get married and have children, and we're going to have our own business. And all of a sudden, life doesn't match the blueprint. And suddenly, there's depression. Because in their case, they said there's nothing we could do. But they were wrong. They were wrong because they discovered, and Frank discovered, I can make a difference to my wife. The chair, even though I didn't create this and didn't ask for it, this chair does not define me. I can become more than I was before. I can have the impact with my wife. I can have children. We had to change his blueprint because we couldn't change all the conditions of his life. Does that make sense? I couldn't get him to physically walk again. Maybe someday he will, but we can't count on that. What we got to count on is that he can be fulfilled by seeing he isn't helpless. And I did that through a series of experiences that violated what he thought he couldn't do. The same thing was true with almost every one of the people we worked with at some level. And in Joaquin's example, it was also true. Joaquin said, well, I can't ever have this quality of life again because I'm not a professional basketball player. And he was locked into that mindset, and all of us get locked at times. But to his credit, to a system of steps, we were able to break him out of that. We were get him to see that he isn't helpless. Because here's your choice. Watch this now. If you're suffering, if you're in pain, your life doesn't match how you think it should be, and you think you're helpless to change it, now you have only 3 choices. Choice 1, blame something. And that's what Joaquin did, if you recall. He blamed his coach, he blamed what happened to him, and of course these things were outside his control. But he blamed his coach. And a big part of the healing, if you watch this session, was bringing his coach in and getting him to see, hey, you know what, all that anger, all that resentment inside of you, Joaquin, A, it's not based on the truth, and B, like Nelson Mandela said, having resentment in your soul is like drinking poison and hoping that your enemy will die. It doesn't work that way. And when Joaquin was able to break out, his breakthrough was a change in perception, to realize this coach wasn't stopping me. I just felt like I lost everything, and so I don't know how to change it, so I'm looking for something to be mad about, someone to blame, so I don't have to blame myself, or I don't have to feel so helpless. Because when you're angry, you don't feel so helpless. You feel strong for the moment, even though it's a fake strength. When he was able to make that breakthrough, he could stop blaming. Because these are your 3 choices. When life doesn't match how you think it should be, blame something. An event, someone else, or yourself. As we talked about earlier in this series, blame games just destroy you. There's no progress when you blame. For the moment, you feel okay, but nothing changes. What are your real choices? You only have 2 choices in life. If life doesn't match your blueprint, you either have to change your life. That is, you got to say, you know what, my body isn't there, I'm going to go work out. My relationship isn't there, I'm going to change it. I'm not making what I got to make, I'm going to retool. I'm going to get a new skill. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to start a business. I'm going to do something. You have to do something to change your life. Or, in order for you to be happy, if you can't change your life, you're going to have to change your blueprint. Usually in life, it requires a little bit of each. Does that make sense? And if you change your life and change your blueprint, you can have an extraordinary life. And what you witnessed this man do was once he let go of his anger and his denial, once he started to look at things, he began to find by spending time with his family that he was worthwhile being loved whether he played basketball or not. Of course, he'd love to play basketball, but professional basketball was no longer a part of it. And we got to get Joaquin to shift that. And Joaquin is a metaphor for all of us, because all of us are going to have times in our life when what we want or think life should be like isn't going to match how life really is. Those moments, if we blame, our life goes into pain. If we change, we can change our life and match our blueprint. But we have to also know when it's not within our control. And that's how we're able to make a shift and change what our story is for our life, what our expectations are, not by lowering them, but by changing what that model really is. I hope this makes sense to you. I'll give you a great example. Years ago, I do a lot of work with business people, celebrities, people of all kinds of walks of life. And I was dealing with a group of people, and they knew a very, very powerful celebrity. And to give that person privacy, I won't tell you too many details, so you can't figure out exactly who it is, but it would be a person who was very successful as a woman, who was extremely attractive by cultural standards, a woman who's had a lot of dear friends, a lot of deep respect, so great skill, great ability, extremely talented, quite attractive, quite wealthy in financial terms, and lots of great friends. This would be, for most people's idea, the ultimate blueprint. If your life matches that description, you must have an incredible life. But ironically, this particular individual, as famous as they were, was depressed all the time. They had seemingly everything, and yet the person was depressed. How do you get depressed when you're smart and you're strong and you're beautiful and you got great friends and you're rich and you're famous? Well, it's real simple. People said, I don't know what it is. Everyone's tried to help her. She's been through counseling. She's got all these different drugs. Nothing's working. She's taking antidepressants and she's still depressed, which is not uncommon, by the way. Because if you change the way you feel physically, but you still see your life doesn't match how you think it should be at some level, and you feel like you're helpless to change it, you're going to be depressed. So I said, bring her to me. I said, I can help her. I know that sounds like hyperbole, but I absolutely can help her. Well, how do you know that, Tony? Because I already know what the problem is. I know if someone's depressed, it's because they feel helpless because their life doesn't match how they think it should be. I just don't know what her blueprint is, but we'll find out what it is, and we'll either help her change her life or we'll help her change her blueprint or both. Long story short, and very quickly, I'll tell you the core of it. She came to me and she spent maybe the first half an hour telling me, apologizing, saying, I know I should be happier. I know it's silly for me to be depressed. I don't know why I'm so depressed. I know I should be grateful for what I have, and I am grateful. And it was all these reasons why she knows she should feel good, but still didn't. And I tried to finally explain to her, listen, I don't care about that. I care about you. The fact that you're not happy has nothing to do with what you have or don't have. The fact that you're not happy is that your life doesn't match the way you think it should be. And you have some idea of how you think it should be. And worse, if you're this depressed after all this time, you feel like you can't do anything. You have no power to change it. You feel helpless. And she looked at me in a certain way, and I said, so what is that? What did you want your life to be like? She goes, well, it sounds stupid. I said, it's not going to sound stupid to me. She said, well, I don't know. I just always, since I was a little girl, dreamed that I would be married, and I would have 3 basically perfect children, and they would love me totally, and I loved my husband, he loved me, and I said, okay, so how's that working for you so far? And she said, well, I think you know, because she's a pretty famous person. She said, I'm divorced twice, I have no children, and I'm now X age. And to give you a clue, that age would be an age where having a child, your own natural child at least, barring a medical miracle, is not going to happen. So I said to her, well, why don't you just adopt? She goes, no, that's not it. And so what I had to dig under is, remember we talked in one of the earlier sessions about there's the surface problem and then there's the deeper desire or need. So I said to her, I said, well, what if you couldn't have the husband but you could have the kids? And she smiled and she said, I'd take that. I said, well, why not adopt a kid? She goes, no, it has to be my own blood children. So I kept digging to find out what was behind her blueprint. Because your blueprint is just a projection of what you think you need to be happy. But as human beings, we're notoriously ineffective at knowing it's going to make us happy. So much that we think we're going to make us happy, we get there and we go, is this all there is? So many things that we think are going to make us miserable and we can never deal with, we go through it and we can handle it. We're not good at projecting these things. All kinds of studies will show this. So I said to her, well, what are you hoping to get from these 3 children? Why do they have to be your blood children? And she finally said, well, if they're my blood children, I know they'll always love me. They'll never leave me. What was she looking for? Unconditional love. She had this big blueprint that said, White House, picket fence, 3 children, perfect husband, all these different things. But what was behind that was a need to feel like she could have love that would be certain and wouldn't go away. So I can help her meet that need. So I said to her, I said, well, maybe one reason you don't have a husband is because every time you look at one, you're trying to figure out if he's going to get you those 3 kids in time and how that's going to happen. And maybe he feels a little stressed when you're looking at him this way because he can feel what's going on behind your bed, even if he doesn't know what the words are. And she started to laugh. She goes, I guess I've probably been that way a good portion of my life. And she goes, people wonder, why I'm so uptight. I said, you're uptight because you felt like you're running out of time trying to meet some picture. But I said, all you really want is love. I said, don't you have a lot of love in your life? Tell me about your friends. And gradually, I got her to start seeing this love that she was trying to get was already here. It didn't match the picture. Maybe we could paint a new picture of what life could really be like and make sure that picture met her deepest needs. That's basically what we did with Joaquin. Joaquin wanted to be a professional basketball player because he loved basketball, yes, but also because he wanted to be that man who was a leader. He wanted to be the man who was the good man. He wanted to be the one who brought energy to people. He wanted to be the man people would look up to. He wanted to be the man who could take care of his family in style, all of his family, not just his daughters and his wife, but other people as well. Underneath it all, he wanted to know that he mattered. And through the process that you saw in this show, he began to find out that he didn't need to be angry at the world, that yes, his blueprint was taken from him, but his soul and his ability to be a special human being that could touch other people was not taken from him. That maybe his real gift was his ability to inspire young kids, his ability to get himself to do whatever it took. How did he become a professional basketball player? Unbelievable discipline, unbelievable drive. He started bringing that to picking up trash, and the game started to change. He started to have fun there. He could come home and take care of his kids and pay his bills. That doesn't solve everything, but it gives him a way to suddenly regain himself. When he sat around with all of his family, and you saw part of those scenes, and if you watch little areas of browsing this week, you'll see some more scenes from his family where you see him begin to realize they love me whether I'm rich or poor. They love me whether I'm a professional basketball player or not. They love me. That's what he was really after. And when he got that, it allowed him to let go and say, I can do other things. That doesn't mean he won't have challenges. We're all going to have challenges in our life. It doesn't mean that at times he won't wish he's doing more. But he's no longer stuck. He's broken through because he now knows I have control. I can change my life or I can change my blueprint. And when I do, I can fulfill it. I can start to feel that aliveness. Now here's the trap. What do you think happens once you fulfill your blueprint regularly? Once you figure out how to do what you always dreamed of? You always dreamed to live a certain way, and now you're living that way every day. Well, the human nervous system, the human spirit needs to grow. So pretty soon you'll get bored with that, and you'll come up with a new blueprint. That's part of life that's exciting. See, if you and I from this day forward are going to be happy, just remember what we've said. It takes 2 things, grow and give. A meaningful life comes from growing, that sense of progress, and it comes from having life not just be about me, but about we, doing something that makes me feel connected to other people besides myself. That growth, that sense of contribution fills a deep spiritual need that we all have. If you are unhappy in your life, you got 3 choices, really 2. Blame, that's not a choice, it's not going to work. Don't blame someone else, don't blame the event, don't blame yourself. Just figure out what you're going to do to change your life. That's my specialty. If you like my coaching or my team's coaching, come visit with us. Come to an event. Come get a coach. Come through a program, and we'll guide you through it more than just a few minutes like this, and we'll do it directly, an environment that'll shift you. Or change your blueprint. You're going to have to rewire what's going on inside, and that's what we focus on as well. So I hope this journey has been an interesting one for you. I hope it's opened up your eyes to what it takes to go from where you are to where you want to be. It takes changing your emotional pattern. It takes bringing presence to your life. It takes realizing you have no problems compared to somebody else and putting your life in perspective. It takes the ability to deal with those extreme stresses that happen in your life by questioning your limiting beliefs. And Again, we'd love to coach you and show you how to change those in a permanent way where it happens automatically, just like lifting weights so often until the muscle's always there and you find yourself able to follow through. It takes for you to be able to figure out how to deal with crisis and how to turn it around. It takes facing your fear. It takes pushing yourself through what used to stop you. It takes putting yourself in a position where you connect to what's more important than just yourself, what you value than just yourself. And it takes, I think in this case also, the ability to realize that no matter what happens to you, you're more than that moment. You're more than the story you think you're supposed to be. And that even when you're not matching what you think you need to be, maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe you're having to find a different part of yourself that's going to fulfill you at a much deeper level. Sometimes failing to get your goal gives you your destiny. I can't tell you how many people I've known over the years who had an idea of what they thought their life was supposed to be like, and they didn't achieve it, and they felt miserable and upset and frustrated, and one day an opening happened and they went, oh my God, thank God that didn't happen. I think it's Garth Brooks had a great song, and it's a song about when he was in high school and he was in love with this girl, infatuated with her, and she didn't even know that he existed. And he prayed to God every day that she would notice him, that she would fall in love with him. And then sure enough, she never did. He was so disappointed. His blueprint didn't match. His life didn't match it because she didn't even know he existed. And he felt this suffering. He could do nothing to turn it around. Well, 15 years later, he became a guy named Garth Brooks, somebody everybody knew, and he could rock, stadiums with his energy and his song and his music. And he goes back to be at his high school reunion. I think it was his 15-year reunion, if I remember correctly. I don't remember the exact year, but all I remember is he said he saw that woman that he was so obsessed by. He was looking forward to seeing her. And now he was Garth Brooks, and he met her. And after he met her and spent some time with her, he wrote a song called Thank God for Unanswered Prayers. Sometimes not getting your blueprint's the best thing that ever happened, because the disappointment drives you to find something more important inside of you. Or not getting it makes you look for another aspect of your life, a spiritual aspect, a family aspect, a physical aspect. If you can just trust that life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, then you can find in any situation a benefit that can take your life to the next level. I don't care if you're Frank and Kristen. I don't care if you're, Mandy and Scott. I don't care if you're Joaquin and Kim. Every one of us in our life is going to face situations where it feels like we have total trauma, something that's been taken from us. The real question is, what are you going to do with it? Some people just live in their story of what they don't have, and they have the right to do that. If Frank and Kristen lived in pain and felt bad, we'd all say they have the right to do it. It's the difference between what you have the right to do and what you deserve to give yourself and others. We have the ability to transcend whatever happens to us. There's something called post-traumatic growth. Very few people know about it. Two people go through the same stress, one's destroyed, the other grows. What's the difference? The people that grow will not give up. They don't have any excuses. They find the way to break through whatever it takes. And when they do, three things happen. Number one, they realize who they really are and what they're capable of. They realize they're so much stronger than they thought they were. And number two, they deepen all their relationships. You want to know who really cares about you, who you love and who loves you? Go through some tragedy, go through some hard times. All your Facebook friends go away. Your real friends, your real family shows up for you, and you show up for them, and it deepens your relationships. And the third thing happens, if you can push yourself through and break through whatever challenges life gives you, is each time you have a breakthrough, you get stronger. And it almost like builds a psychological immunity in you, where suddenly, all of a sudden, it's like stuff happens, you know stuff's gonna happen, and you're not scared of it anymore. Because after you've been through a stroke, after you've been through, losing the use of some of your body or senses, after you lose a family member, and you break through to that, you get to the other side, it's like, give me your best shot, life. It's almost like there's this psychological immunity that says, I'm ready for whatever life will give me. I don't want challenges, but if they're here, I know I can handle them. That strength of spirit is what creates a sense of freedom and joy in life. And that strength of spirit basically comes from living a life where you are constantly and never-ending thinking a way to improve yourself and to help others. That's my mission, and if we can serve you again in the future, I hope you'll check us out. There's 3 ways you can continue to participate with us. You can come to an event, come have an experience with us live at a weekend at our Unleash the Power Within or our Date with Destinies. I think you'll find it's very different than just sitting here talking to you quietly, sitting in front of your computer screen. It's a rock and roll environment. It's like going to the ballpark and having one person sitting there talking to you versus being in the ballpark or the rock and roll concert, with 50,000. There's an energy and a power that comes from it. Second is there's immersion. Here we talk for an hour, there's distractions and emails. There it's total focus, and we go for immersion where literally what we did here over 6 weeks, a few little conversations, all that happens over and over again, multiple times a day, and you get that shift. So come to an event or call up and get a coach. We have people that you can work with and have a free coaching session and make sure it's really valuable for you. But these are people that can check in with you to help make sure you break through, you make the changes you want to make in your career or your finances or your body or your emotions or whatever area matters to you. And finally, lastly, and probably most importantly, every day you got to feed your mind. Because every day most of us are turning on, some form of news. It shows up in our pocket, in our Blackberries or iPods or our iPhones, I should say. It shows up on your computer constantly. It chases us, and it rarely does a good idea interrupt you. Really what you have to do is pursue the ideas, pursue the experiences that are going to change your life. And we have a way to do it called net time, no extra time. A way where you can keep feeding your mind the stuff that really matters with some products or services. So if you're interested in any of those things, be sure to click on your interest of an event or interest in having a free coaching session, or maybe try one of our audio programs, because the other challenge here is with video, you got to sit here potentially and watch me, but with audio, you can do it while you're working out, you can do it while you're cleaning the house, you can do it while you're driving in the car, while you're getting to work. We'd love to continue serving you in any way we can. I know I've gone long in this session, but I really want you to think about, how can I give my life the way I want it to be? The way I do it is I figure out what my blueprint is and I update it for what life is. I change my life, match my blueprint, and suddenly my life feels full and alive. Thank you for the time that we spent together here. I've really enjoyed our time, and I hope that this breakthrough series reminds you to never settle for less than you can be. Never settle for less than you can give or you can share. Live strong, live with passion, and God bless. Hi, it's Tony Robbins. Happy New Year. Listen, how's your new year coming out so far? I know it's early, it's January 15th, and I thought I'd send you out this little video message because you know what that day means, don't you? January 15th is the cutoff. Statistics show that 95% of the people that actually made a New Year's resolution have already broken it by today. And that's if you even made a resolution. Now, if you're the exception to that, I'm thrilled for you, and I support you, and I say keep rocking it. But if you've missed, maybe I could drop you a quick little message or two here that can help you not only recover, but get way beyond just making some New Year's resolution and make some real lasting change in your life. I mean, think about it. Most people don't even make a resolution anymore. Why? Because they've made them from years and years and years, and they know they're not going to follow through. So after a while, who wants to disappoint yourself? Who wants to be upset with yourself? Why even bother to set a new standard for this year? You know it's going to be the same as last year. If you're the kind of person watching this right now and you've actually opened this email and you haven't shut me off already, then obviously that's not you. So the question is, what is it that makes us even want to make a resolution? I mean, it's an interesting question. Why is it at the beginning of a year we have this tradition, but it goes beyond tradition. It's something inside of us that makes us want to make things better. And I think part of it is the calendar gives us this idea that we could have a fresh start, that we could start from fresh and have this great victory. And it's really, the calendar itself is quite arbitrary. It's wonderful to use it, but if you didn't use it effectively, let's use the calendar to serve you today. Let's just see, what does it really take to make this thing happen? Because there's no denying that inside of you, the only thing that's going to make you happy in the year ahead and the decades ahead is going to be having you have an experience where on a regular basis, you feel like your life is making progress. If there's one thing I teach, and I want to remind you of it, it's really simple. Getting things is not going to make you happy. That's good news in a tough economy. It's a good reminder. It doesn't matter what you get. Doesn't matter whether it be money or opportunity. All those things might excite you for the moment. Even a relationship, as magnificent it may be, might be exciting for a while. But if you don't keep growing, that relationship isn't going to stay exciting. So the secret to real happiness is progress. Progress equals happiness. And if we can make progress on a regular basis, we feel alive. And that's why at the beginning of the year, we get this thing like, okay, I can have this fresh start. I could really do what my soul desires. I could expand. I could grow. I could improve. I could change. Or maybe better than change, I could progress. See, think about that. Progress is an aliveness to it, doesn't it? You don't have to work at changing. People say all the time now, well, I'm working on changing. Don't worry about it. You don't have to work on changing. Change is automatic.
Your body's gonna change whether you want it or not as the years go by. And no matter how hard you work, there's gonna be some changes going on there. The economy is gonna change no matter what you want it to do. The weather is gonna change. Relationships are gonna change. Everything in life is always changing. We don't have to work on change. Change is automatic, but progress is not. So if you wanna make real progress, then you really gotta look at your life in a different way. You gotta say, I gotta take control of this process and not just hope it's gonna work out like people do who make a resolution. Because really, isn't that what they're really doing at the beginning of the year? They're saying, well, here's my resolutions for the year, and they really basically tell you their wishes. It's their wish list. It's what they hope it all comes together. And then they call it a resolution, but they don't know what a resolution is. When you resolve something, to have a resolution is to resolve it. When you've resolved, this is how it's gonna be, that's when you cut off any possibility except the thing you've committed to. It's like the old adage, if you want to take the island, you burn the boats. Because when you burn those boats, there's no going back. You're going to find a way to make things work. And most people, they're stating what they hope will come together, and if it doesn't happen, then they're disappointed, but they're not too disappointed because they're not too vested. What does it take to successfully create a lasting change in your life? To not only have a New Year's resolution you follow through on, but really have a lasting change? Well, the first step for lasting change is very much like making a New Year's resolution. Fundamentally, it's the same. The first step is you gotta have a vision for what it is you really, truly want. Not what you think you want or what you should have. I mean, what are most people's New Year's resolutions? I'm gonna stop eating sugar. I'm gonna stop smoking. I'm gonna lose 10 pounds. The problem with that is it's not very inspiring for most people. It's not telling you what you're gonna get. It's only what you're not gonna do. And it's kind of hard to have you move forward with that. A vision is about what you're here to create. A vision that really works is one that excites you. If you say, well, my resolution, my goal, my outcome for this month, this week, this year is to lose X number of pounds, that's okay, but it's not very compelling. It has to be a compelling vision. It's gotta have something that has the power to pull you, not something you have to push yourself to do. Those are two different kinds of motivation. Push requires willpower, and willpower never lasts. What will last is pull. Having something so exciting, so attractive, something you desire so much that you have a hard time going to sleep at night and you get so up early in the morning to rock it and take it to the next level. That's what you're looking to create. And that isn't easy to get. But one of the reasons we do seminars and events and we say, why do that? Why not just read a book or something? Is because when you get in an environment where you're with people that are being put in a peak state, like when you're going to a sporting event, if you watch a sporting event at home, it might have a certain level of excitement. But when you're in a stadium with 50,000 people, suddenly it has a whole different level of intensity. And we feel that. And the bottom line of our follow-through comes down to our emotional intensity. In a different state of mind, you're gonna come up with a much better and a more exciting vision than if you're sitting on the couch going, okay, what are my new resolutions for this year? And you're doing it the morning after the new year has started and you're a little inebriated and the football game's on in the background. Probably not gonna have the power of focus there. Probably not gonna have the power of the energy to create something that's gonna pull you for this year. And you gotta do that. So it's gotta be a vision that's compelling. Something that it's gonna be a gift to make sure that it happens. And also, along with that compelling vision, you gotta have strong enough reasons that you're gonna follow through when the going gets tough. That's one of the biggest things missing for most people. They say, this is what I wanna do. It's not very exciting, it's not very compelling, but most importantly, they don't have strong enough reasons to push themselves through what's gonna be necessary to get that dream, to get that goal, when the inevitable challenges come up, when you're starving, hungry, and you're trying to go on a diet, right? When you got no time and you're stressed out and you haven't worked out still, and that's what you're supposed to do. When the economy gets tight and what you thought you're gonna do doesn't work, and so you give up on the goal instead of finding another way to get there. You don't let the fear take you over if you've got strong enough reasons. Those reasons can be positive, or those reasons can also be negative. They can be, if I don't do this, this is what's gonna cost me. And if I do this, this is what I'm gonna gain in my life. Reasons come first, answers come second. If you get a compelling vision and you got strong enough reasons that will push you through the tough times, you're gonna do things other people don't do. Instead of collapsing, even if you get off target, you won't go, oh, I blew it. You'll get right back on target, make the change, make things happen. And I know you've done this in many areas of your life. Just think about it again. I'm not teaching you something really new here today. I just want to remind you of what your soul knows. You gotta change, you gotta improve, and you gotta go through a simple process fundamentally to make that progress. First step, vision that's compelling. Second step, make sure that there's strong enough reasons to follow through. Third step, you gotta review it and feel it every day. I mean, anything. Have you ever had this happen in your life? Has there been anything in your life that you've ever wanted so badly? You were so desirous of it. You had such a hunger for it that you couldn't stop thinking about it. Could have been a career move, could have been when you were a kid, a car, it could have been a relationship, it could have been anything, but you were obsessed. You wanted to make this happen. You wanted to attract this to your life. You just wanted something. And you didn't even know how to get it. But it was so compelling to you. You kept thinking about it every day, envisioning it, imagining it, feeling it. And then stuff happened. And suddenly you started to attract people or situations to your life, and it just came together. Like, you didn't even have a total plan. It was just that it was so a part of your focus with so much intensity and emotion so often that it sensitized you to notice anything that could get you there. There's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system. For short, we call it the RAS. That part of your brain determines what you notice in the world. And it's really important because when you set a goal, when you get really clear on a vision, and there's strong enough reasons, and you review it enough, and it becomes a part of you, that part of your brain says, anything that relates to this, I need to notice. It's like, did you ever buy a certain kind of car, or maybe a certain outfit, and suddenly you see that car everywhere, or those outfits everywhere? Well, you know, the cars were always around, but why do you see it now? Because your RAS knows this is important, this is part of my world now. Similarly, when you really get clear, and it's compelling, and you're reviewing it every day, you've got strong reasons, and you're reviewing it every day, and you're feeling it, the brain becomes incredibly acute at noticing anything to get you to move forward. And so that's the power of this. So, you know, what do people do with a New Year's resolution? They come up with something they kind of want. It's not a compelling vision. They don't really have strong enough reasons, and they never review it again until they notice that they broke what they said they really want to make happen, because they didn't really resolve. If you resolve, you got the vision, it's compelling, you review it daily, and you feel it, you envision it, and you experience it. Simple as it sounds. Now, ultimately, what is this really about? Ultimately, if you're going to have lasting change in anything, you're really talking about just raising your standards. I mean, I always tell people, if you want to know how to change your life, I give it to you in 3 words, boring as it sounds: raise your standards. And what does that mean? Corny as it sounds. Raise your standards. Oh, thank you for the breakthrough thought, Tony. I'm glad I wasted my time watching this little email with you. But think about it. Lasting change is different than a goal. You don't always get your goals, but you always get your standards. Maybe it would help you is to think about it this way. I try to explain standards to people with a different set of words. Think of it as everybody in life gets their musts. They don't get their shoulds. Like, think about it. Most people have a list of shoulds, don't they? Don't you have a list of the shoulds, things you should do, you should follow through on? I should lose some weight, I should work out more, I should make more calls, I should respond more rapidly to my email, whatever, you know? I should get into the office earlier, I should be, more confident. Whatever your should list is, people love to have their should list be met, but it's kind of like New Year's resolutions. If it does, it's really exciting, but if it doesn't, which is most of the time, it's a little disappointing, but you kind of know it's not going to happen. But when you decide something is a must for you, an absolute must, when you cut off any possible, you say, I'm going to find the way or I'm going to make the way. Human beings, when they resolve things, when they make a real resolution inside themselves, which is they raise the standard and they make it a must, they find the way. Think about it in your own life. Haven't you had some area of your life where you raised your standard and your life has never been the same? Maybe at one time in your life you smoked cigarettes, or you did something and you did it for years and you kept trying to change it and kept telling yourself I should. And then one day something happened. Something just clicked you over. Something took you over that kind of tipping point. And inside yourself you said no more. And it was a very, very different experience, wasn't it? Something inside of you shifted, and what was a should became a must, and you've never gone back. Is there an area like that in your life you can think of? Again, did you ever smoke cigarettes? Did you ever eat a certain way, drink a certain form of alcohol, and then finally say no more, and you just don't go back? And notice this, it doesn't really take any willpower anymore. Because somewhere when we make this click, when we make something a must, we attach ourselves to it. It becomes part of our identity. And one thing I've learned in the last, 33 years of working with people from now over 100 countries, 4 million people, is human beings absolutely follow through on who they believe they are. If you said to me, well, I'm really gonna work hard to stop smoking, but I've been a smoker my whole life and I am a smoker, I know your days are numbered. You're gonna be back smoking cigarettes again, because we all act consistent with who we believe we are. I tell people the strongest force in the whole human personality is this need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. If you define yourself as somebody who is really conservative, you're not going to be crazy and act nuts unless you're really drunk or something, and then you can say it's the alcohol, when it's really just you finally getting permission to be yourself. The alcohol is your excuse. If you're a really crazy person, you act crazy, outrageous, playful. You don't act conservative because that's not who you are. Very often people say, well, I can't do that. I'm not that kind of person. And I always say to people, really, when did you define yourself? I mean, really, how many years ago did you come up with what you could and couldn't do in your life? How many years ago? Most people, if they really look at how they're living their life today, it's based on a set of standards, a set of beliefs that they made choices about 10, 20, 30 or more years ago. I mean, very often we made decisions in our youth or very young about what to believe, about what we were capable of, about who we are as a person, and that becomes the glass ceiling, if you will, that controls us. There's a corny metaphor, but it's true. I remember one time I was with my family at the circus, and there was a person there, and they had this big, giant elephant, and you look at this elephant, and they take this little rope, put it around the elephant's neck, and they drive this stake into the ground. And I mean, you look at this and you know that elephant could rip down the entire tent with almost no effort. And yet the elephant doesn't struggle, doesn't try. Why? Because the elephant's conditioned. And they take that elephant and condition the elephant when it's a baby elephant. That's how they train him. When it's a little baby elephant and it doesn't have the power yet, they put a big rope around it and they drive this huge stake in the ground, and the elephant fights and fights and fights. And one day, finally, that elephant decides, I'm not capable of pulling this out. And once that becomes the definition of an identity of anyone, an elephant in this case, they don't even try anymore. It's just who I am, that's how it is, that's just the way it is in my life. I'd like to ask you to take a look at any place you've got a limitation and ask yourself, when did I decide to accept that limitation? And you may not even see it as a limitation, you might see it as just that's who I am. But so often in our lives, we've adapted to be a certain way so that we don't fail or so that people will like us or respect us, but it's not necessarily who we are. Joy comes when you're spontaneous. It's really hard to be truly happy when you're not being yourself. And most of us have no clue who we are. And so a big part of my work, if you've ever been to an event, you know, is to get people to do things spontaneously without thinking, because that's when the real you shows up. That's when the energy comes alive. And when you do that, when you start to connect to your true nature, suddenly there's energy available for you to set a higher standard for what you want in your life. That's what this is really all about. And when I talk about standards, when I talk about, shoulds versus musts, think about your own life. I know there have been areas in your life where some point in time you just shifted and you raised the standard and your life changed. Because whatever people have their identity attached to, they live. We live who we believe we are. That's just how it works. It's just kind of like, I'll give you an example. Look at your physical body. Your physical body today is an absolute reflection of only one thing, not your goals, not your desires, but your standards. The identity you have for yourself. If your standard is you're an athlete, then there's a certain amount of strength, a muscle tone, and energy that's available in your body on a regular basis because that's who you are. And so you do whatever's necessary to maintain that identity. Again, the strongest force in the human personality is this need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. Because if you don't know who you are, you wouldn't know how to act. Once you lock in on that identity, your brain finds a way to keep you there. If you say, man, I'm overweight, I've always been overweight, I'm big boned, and that's the story you got, then you're gonna always find a way to get back there. That's your settling point. That's your identity. That's where things lock in. If you see somebody who's in really great shape, you ask them, do you work out? You know the answer. Yes, how often? And they'll tell you 3 times, 4 times, 5 times a week, whatever. In a seminar, I'll ask people, who here works out at least 5 days a week? And I'm stand up. And you look around that room, and you know that they work out 5 times a week because you can see their body. You don't just get a result without some kind of action, without some form of ritual. Ritual meaning actions you do consistently. Now, do you think those people that are out there working out 5 days a week, do they have more time than you do? Or I have, or anybody else? Of course not. Is their life less busy? Of course not. It's just a must for them. They must work out that way, and they've made that turn and their life changed. So I'm not saying you have to work out 5 days a week. I'm just saying whatever you really want, wants don't get met consistently. Standards do. Whatever you identify, this is who I am. And so it's not so much about changing your identity as it is expanding it. Deciding that, instead of your goals to lose 10 pounds, which is not compelling, what if your vision was to get back to my fighting weight? this year, this month, this next 90 days, I'm gonna transform my body. I'm gonna take on a new challenge. I'm gonna find some technique or strategy, there's a million of them, that can reframe myself where I want to feel younger, stronger, more vibrant than ever before. Here's my reasons, because I want the energy to really make my life work. Because it's tough out there and I want to be stronger than I've ever been before. I want to go in front of the mirror and if I'm naked, not, want to laugh. I want to look there and take a good look and go, yeah, I'm proud of whatever I see there. Whatever it takes, something's gonna make you laugh, smile, something that's gonna tease yourself, but something's gonna move you to another level. If you identify yourself in a new way and you own that every day, and that becomes the standard of how you live, you'll find the way to make that standard real. Money's the same way. Think about it, it doesn't matter what's happening, quote unquote, in the marketplace. People that make money find a way to make money no matter what, don't they? I mean, most people's standard is to pay their bills. So that's what most people find a way to do, even when economic times get tough. Most people, if that's their absolute standard, they find a way. Some people's standard is pay their bills most of the time. And so most of the time they do. Some people's standard is not just to pay their bills, but to take care of their family and maybe even some of their friends. And they find a way. In fact, some people may be in a family where they don't have enough money. They barely have money to pay their bills. They work their guts out. And then somebody, their mother, their father, somebody else, their sister gets ill, and there's not enough money to take care of it. Nobody else has money in the family. They don't either, but they find a way to get that money to take care of their mother or father, don't they? And pay their bills. They never could do it before. Why? The situation made them raise their own standard. And not everybody does that. Somebody else in the family might have money and still not take care of their mother. It all comes down to the inner game, my friends. Changing your life is a change in the inner game. The outside world you can't control, but you have absolute control over this one if you learn the dynamics of what shapes you. And identity is one of those simple, clear, fundamental basics that if you start to shift it, everything else will shift in your life as well. Some people, by the way, have to have more than enough money to do what they want, when they want, where they want, with whomever they want, contribute the way they want. And if that's their must, they find a way. I know that sounds overly simplistic, but it's true. Somebody once said you could take all the money in the world out of the hands of everybody, out of all the wealthy people in the world who are really successful, give it to other people. It wouldn't take too long, those people would have it back in their hands. It's not because they're manipulative, it's because they have a standard. Some are manipulative, don't get me wrong, but they've got a standard of what they're gonna find a way to make happen. I'm just simply saying to you, take those 3 magic words and live them. Raise your standard. And if you really wanna do it, then I'll tell you the most important secret. Have you ever done this? Have you ever told yourself you're raising your standard? Okay, I'm gonna go make this happen. I'm gonna go make this much money. I'm gonna transform my kids. I'm gonna create the ultimate relationship in my life. I'm gonna transform my body, whatever it is. And then you don't have strong enough reasons and you don't use it. You don't follow through. It's because you didn't back up your standards with what makes those standards real, and that's rituals. Rituals are where the power is. Whenever we do our Robbins results coaching, and we say Robbins equals results, the way we get results with people, it's the same way if you listen to my Ultimate Edge program, or back in the old days, Personal Power, or if you went to one of my seminars. You know what I do is I take these huge challenges you got and we break them down into little bite-sized steps. Little things you do each day that after you do them, you get so much momentum that it's easy to succeed. You're not overwhelmed. You have these victory day after day after day on little things. If you went through Ultimate Edge, I'm sure you learned about the hour of power, or the 15 minutes to be able to be fulfilled, or 30 minutes to thrive, where you literally just condition your body and emotion with a couple little rituals. So it doesn't matter what's going on in your world, you feel that strength, and it's not fake, it's not some pump up, it's coming from inside you, and it works. Rituals define us. See, all the results in your life are coming from your rituals. They start with a standard and then have rituals that follow it up. Like, for example, if you are where you want to be physically, you have very different rituals than if you're not where you want to be physically. If you're overweight, you and I both know you got a different ritual than if you're physically fit. Completely different. You get up in the morning, what's the first thing you do if you're fit? Your shoes are there, you roll over, doesn't matter how you feel, you put on your shoes, you lace them, you start walking, or whatever that ritual is. If you're overweight, you roll over and you have a very different ritual. You might roll over several times to turn the alarm clock off. You go in and get your mocha, smocha, whatever, special coffee. You stop by at Starbucks, whatever the case may be. You have your nice sugar muffin. It's supposed to be really nice for you. Whatever you do, it's a different ritual. If you have a great, passionate relationship, you have very different rituals in how you come home than if you have a lousy relationship. When you come home and the first thing you do is you're tweeting somebody, or you're emailing, or flipping on the news, or you don't even come home. What are the rituals? Whenever I study people that are successful, what I look for is what's the standard they hold themselves to? And then what are all those little rituals that add up? Because think about it. Success and failure are not giant events. They don't just show up. You don't just suddenly become successful or suddenly have this cataclysmic event that makes you fail. It may look that way, but failure comes from all the little things. It's failure to make the call. It's failure to check the books. It's failure to say, I'm sorry. It's failure to push yourself to do things physically that you don't want to do. And all those little failures day after day come together until one day some cataclysmic event happens and you blame that. That event happened because you missed all the little stuff. Do you agree with me? And success, by the way, is not some overnight event. It's all these little things. Success is having a vision. Success is making it compelling. Success is really seeing it and feeling it every day with strong enough reasons. Success is feeling the sense that I'm here to grow and I'm here to give something to the world more than just myself. Success is caring about other people. Success is calling and saying, I love you in the middle of the day for no damn reason. Or sending a note. That'll change your relationship. Have a ritual of something funny, playful, or a surprise you do. How many relationships are dead today because they have no surprise rituals anymore? You need to have some rituals, some cool things you do that nobody else does that gives you a better life than anybody else has. All the little stuff. That's where success comes from. In business, it comes from delivering more than anybody could imagine. All those little things add up. People go, wow, that's who I want to do business with. It's true in any area of your life. So if you look at somebody who's really successful and you think, wow, I mean, they're so amazing, they're such a genius, you gotta dig underneath and you gotta remember something. People are rewarded in public for what they've practiced for years in private. Myself and my business people say, how do you get up and speak? And you have no notes and you go for 3 days and nights and the room is like, everybody's wired and it's incredible. It's like a rock concert. How do you do that? How do you have that confidence? Well, it's not confidence, it's experience now. But I did so much behind the scenes and I still do to make things right. I mean, how many people would know that since the time I was 17 years old, before I walk out on stage, still do to this day, wouldn't need to do it, but I still do it, I never walk out there without being in an absolute peak state of mind. There are days my back is hurting, my throat is hurting, or I may have had a challenge, or my father passed away, and I've still got to deliver for these people because my standard is give my all every time. Every event has to be better. Talk to anybody who's been to our events for 5, 10 years, some of our trainers, and I'll say, I don't know how he does it. He always finds a way to make it better. That's not an ego thing. That's a standard in me. I have to find the way. And my ritual, though, is I prepare, I think, I gather new information, I figure out how to put something across better. What do people need? I spend time with our customers. I see what's going on. And before I get on stage each time, I have this little ritual to put myself in a state of mind. And I did it starting like 17 years old. I started doing it. I say, I now command my subconscious mind. And I say this out loud several times, this little set of phrases, as an incantation to kind of condition my mind and body. And I'd say, I now command my subconscious mind to direct me in helping as many people as possible today by giving me the strength and the emotion and the humor and the brevity, whatever it takes to show this person and help this person change their life now. And I started that with a person when I worked with people one-on-one, and I would do that for 45 minutes driving in my Volkswagen to go serve and coach somebody for the first time. Now I don't say that person, I say these people, and I can go out in a room of 10,000 people and deliver for 50 hours, and I do it every time I come back on stage. It's a ritual to go into peak state. Peak states don't just show up, they don't interrupt you. Great ideas don't interrupt you, you gotta pursue them. I talked to Michael Jordan, I'll never forget, at the peak of his career, and got to watch his final game, saw him backstage and spent some time with him, and it was a pretty exciting time. He was the greatest basketball player I think that ever lived and has ever lived. And I asked him, I said, what sets you apart, Michael? What is it? And is it God-given talent, ability, skill? What is it? And he said, Tony, he said, I can shoot you straight, it's not, me trying to act humble. He goes, I have a lot of talent, a lot of God-given talent, a lot of skill. I've worked really hard. But he said, really, it's my standards. He said, every day I demand more from myself than anybody else could humanly expect. I'm not competing with somebody else, I'm competing with what I'm capable of. Magic formula. Because most of us lower our standards, why? Because who you spend time with, my friends, is who you become. One of the biggest reasons I started going to seminars when I was like 17 is I had nobody around me as a great role model. I could read about somebody, but being around people, being in that environment was very different. Finding a way to go to work with someone who lived that standard of life was very different. You get around people with low standards and you compete with it. You don't need to compete with it. It's like, okay. I mean, remember Jerry Springer? I don't know if he's still in the air, but I remember he used to get people on the show and I thought, where would he find these people? And why would people watch? I'll tell you why they watch. They watch these people and go, my life's still pretty darn good compared to that person. Look at them. You don't have to change your life. All you have to do is find somebody with a lower standard and you'll feel good about yourself. But if you feel that good feeling, it's an illusion. The only thing that's going to make you happy, my friend, in this year or any other, is to step up. It's to raise the standard. It's to discover what you're capable of and feel that incredible power of pushing through whatever's holding you back and get to the other side of more of your true self. That's what this game's all about. And look at the best of the world in anything. Tiger Woods, what's his vision? To win golf tournaments? No, to be the best that ever lived. That's his goal. That's his vision. But here's what's interesting. He backs it up with rituals. If you just have a vision and you don't have the rituals, stop lying to yourself. His rituals are, he started doing things nobody did before. He went and started lifting weights. Golfers lifting weights? No way. He went out and he changed his swing when he was the best in the world because he realized in order to be the best that ever lived, he's gonna have to change his swing. If you know anything about golf, you don't change your swing when you're the best. And he went and retrained himself because he has different rituals than other golfers. Now many people are modeling his rituals to get better. It's amazing. You know, you look at somebody like Michael Phelps, the 2008 swimmer, won 7, only 2 people, I think, in history, if I remember correctly, that have gotten 7 gold medals in one session. And here's a guy, he's got number 6 under his belt, and he's exhausted, and he's going in for that final swim. I'm sure you remember. And how does the guy win? By 1/100th of a second. Do you think that was some massive skill that got him over the top? Or was it a standard that says, this is who I am. I am the champion. And no one is taking this from me. And somehow in those final milliseconds, 1/100th of a second, he pushed himself just beyond his competitor. But you know about Michael Phelps? What allowed him to be able to push beyond that moment is his rituals. Go study the guy. Most people who swim have these unbelievable workouts. He does 2 and 3 of those workout sessions a day. All the other swimmers in the beginning thought he was insane. You're gonna overtrain, you can't do that, it's not physically possible. But he had a standard and the rituals to back it up. So here's my final message to you, because I've gotten carried away. I thought I was gonna send you like a 5-minute message, but as you can see, there's no script here, it's just me going a little crazy with you, but I wanna really see you get what you want this year. Don't let this year be like last. And if last year was great, still don't let it be that way. Raise the standard. If your life is perfect and extraordinary, you darn well know you're not gonna be happy unless you keep making it better. That's what makes us feel alive. It's not what we get that makes us happy. It's who we become and what we're able to give because we become more. That sense of contribution is what creates the deepest meaning. So here's my assignment for you if you want one. If you want to go from conversation to some action, here's a simple thing to do. What's an area of your life right now that you really want to improve? What's an area that's important to improve? If your body's great, how about your career? If career's great, how about your relationships? Intimate one especially, or your kids. Or your relationship with your creator, your spiritual side of your life? Or is it your finances? Figure an area that really matters. Decide on that area. Number 1, write down what your life is like in that area right now as specifically as possible. So you might say, well, I'm 13.5 pounds overweight, whatever the weight is, whatever the situation is, or my body fat's like this, or I wake up exhausted in the morning, and you write the truth of where you are right now. So you're real clear. Or I'm not in a relationship. I say I want a relationship, but I'm not in one, and I don't seem to find them. All the good ones seem to be gone is my belief. And I really do want one, but I don't have it. Whatever your definition. Or I'm in a relationship, and God, I wish I wasn't in a relationship. I'm planning my escape, wherever you are. Or I have a wonderful relationship. We love each other, but there just isn't enough passion. Just write the truth of where you are. The area you want to change, but write how it is. And then the second step is, and this is where you got to be really honest with yourself. What are the rituals that have put me there? Because whatever results you're getting, even if you don't like the results, there's some rituals that are keeping you in that place. There's some rituals of what you eat or don't eat, how you move or don't move, how you sleep or don't sleep. There's some rituals in the lack of variety or spice or energy or focus in an area. There's something you're doing, and it's usually not one thing, it's a bunch of little things that you kind of do consistently whenever you think about getting in a relationship, whenever you think about working out, whenever you think about money. You get yourself in a state of overwhelm. You start thinking about all the things you can't control. Just write down all the rituals you have, and then here's the third step. What do you want? What's your vision? And be really specific. I want to be my fighting weight. I want to be the strongest I've ever felt. I'm going to turn whatever it is, be specific. And then, last step number 4, what are the rituals that'll get you there? What would you need to do differently each morning if you're going to be that kind of energy, that kind of strength? How often would you work out? What days would you work out? What time? A ritual is something you do consistently, usually at a specific time, so it becomes automatic. Let me tell you something. Willpower doesn't last, but rituals can last a lifetime. I bet you have some rituals in your life right now you've been doing for years, even though some of them don't serve you. I'm just saying, wake yourself up. If you want a new year and a new life, you don't need to start on January 1st. Start today. Start with this little video. And just begin to see what happens and see how easy it is to just do a few little rituals. Don't do them all, just do 2 or 3 new things. And you know what happens? You'll get momentum. Because once you discipline yourself in one area of your life, you feel yourself doing it in other areas as well. And I always say something that my original teacher taught me. I always remind people, there's always 2 pains in life. There's the pain of discipline, or there's the pain of regret. And discipline weighs ounces, as my friend Jim Rohn taught me. Regret weighs tons. You don't want to have regret. So right now, what do you want to change? What's it really like? What are the rituals that got you there? That'll take a little homework. If you're not sure, ask the people around you. They'll tell you what your rituals are. What do I really want in depth? What are the rituals that'll get me there? And then get yourself to start a few of those actions and lock them in place. If I can help you in any way, we're here as a company to support you. Come have an event with us. Come to Unleash the Power Within or Mastery University, or get a coach. You can get a free coaching session if you call our company and click on something on this. We'll probably have something on it, or get a product. Or don't do anything with us, but do something with somebody, starting with you. If you make the changes in yourself, you're going to be proud this year. And no amount of money or accolades from other people can mirror the feeling of being proud of knowing you've taken back control of your life, or you've taken a great life to another level. Because once you do that, you have something you can give other people, whether it be your kids or your friends or your family. And ultimately, that's what life's about. So thanks for listening. I don't know how long I went here, but I hope this has been helpful for you. I just thought it's a new year, and I want people to be able to truly create a new life. And until I see you again, hopefully soon, or gets a chance to meet you, live strong and live with passion. And of course, God bless you. Happy New Year.